Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be installing some lightweight pulleys on my Yaris. And so these lightweight pulleys that I got right here, I purchased these from the guys over at Nonstop Tuning. And I got these a couple days ago, and so we're going to see if swapping out the OEM pulleys for these lightweight pulleys will actually increase the amount of horsepower that I have on my car. And so without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so getting into it. First things first, we're going to have this is the alternator pulley. So this is going to go on the alternator. All right, nice bright red. Notice there's a few dings here and there on the inside this groove here. Might have to address some of that, kind of shave it down a little bit. But looks good for the most part. Next thing up, we have the water pump pulley. So this is for the water pump. Again, nice bright red. I believe this is made out of 6061 aluminum. So nice lightweight pulley. And then last but not least, this is the crankshaft pulley. So you can see their logo right there, Nonstop Tuning, right on top. I believe there's a notch here. It's hard to see. There's a notch over here. I believe that's for lining up the crankshaft for the timing. And yeah, this is also very nice. You also have very nice grooves in here too. Grooves feel pretty good. There's a couple high spots I feel, but for the most part it feels pretty well done. Lastly, they had this on their website, and I figured I'd get it. This is a alternator bracket replacement. So on the Yaris, there's a bracket that they use to hold the alternator in place, and so I figured this might be a better way to adjust the alternator. So this is essentially two rod ends. I believe one of them is a left-handed thread, because that way you can, if you twist this middle part, both sides extend, and that way you can adjust the tension on the alternator, which ultimately puts tension on the belt itself. And so I figured I'd just pick this up since they had it on their website, and I figured it might be easier and make it easier for adjusting the belt and everything. So yeah, also went ahead and picked this up too. So before we go and install these lightweight pulleys onto the car, I'm actually going to take my Yaris over to the local dyno shop where we can get a baseline reading of how much horsepower is my Yaris actually making. I've actually never taken it to a dyno and get a baseline reading, and so this will be the first time I'll be taking it and getting a baseline reading of how much horsepower my car is currently making. Right now on the car, I have a cold air intake from K&N. I've done the 1ZZ throttle body upgrade, and I've also replaced the spark plugs. And so in addition to those modifications plus the stock OEM pulleys, we're going to go ahead and get a baseline reading of how much horsepower the car currently makes. And so once we get that number, we're going to come back, we're going to install these new pulleys, and we're going to go back to the dyno and get a new reading and see just how much improvement or how much additional horsepower we can get from swapping the OEM pulleys to lightweight pulleys. And so let's jump over to the dyno shop and see what's going on. $104. So we are back from the dyno. As you can see, the car is in the garage ready to be worked on to replace the OEM pulleys and install the aftermarket lightweight pulleys from NST. So we are looking at the engine bay right now, right? So you can see. So here, this is the alternator right here. That's the alternator pulley. And then if you look around, down there is going to be the crankshaft pulley. And then right below the alternator is the water pump. And we also have the AC compressor. That's going to be part of the belts and everything. It's not a lot of room. You know, there's not much space to really work in here. So I'm going to go ahead and try remove the front bumper, see if that gives us a little bit more space on this side. And then I'm also going to go ahead and remove the passenger wheel, because I know we can see the crankshaft pulley if we remove the passenger wheel and we go from this side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just try to give myself as much access as I can to work on this. I got a couple panels off, so I got the fender liner kind of out of the way, and there's another tray over here. I got that out of the way as well. So finally, with that out of the way, as you can see, so this is the crankshaft pulley right here. This is the AC compressor pulley, but that we're not changing, so we're gonna leave that alone. And then it's a little hard to see, but as you can see right there, that is the water pump pulley. And then it's going to be a little hard to get to those 3 bolts in here. A little hard to see, but because we have this main member right here, that's kind of part of the chassis, so that's going to be hard to take out. But then if we go up, right, so like we said before, alternator pulleys right here on top. So to get to that pulley, we're gonna have to take out the alternator, which will mean disconnecting all of these wirings to it, disconnecting the negative terminal to the battery, and then we'll get this alternator out. And so that will also require loosening the alternator bolts. There's this one up here. This is just a bracket that holds this together. It's a tensioner. And then there's another bolt. That guy right here, this it runs right here. We have to loosen. You can kind of see the head over there, right there. So we're gonna have to loosen that and take out the alternator, and then that will allow us to change the pulley on the alternator. And so that's kind of what you need to do. And so we're gonna go ahead and start unbolting things and then getting to them. We're gonna go ahead and loosen this guy. I believe this is a 12 millimeter. There's one more bolt down here. It's a 14 millimeter, I believe. So I have to get the belt off from this point. There we go. Okay. There's a bracket here. This is the alternator bolt right here, but can't take it out because there's a bracket this bracket that's in the way, so I gotta move that out of the way. Just gonna unbolt it. There's a bolt right here that we can use to unbolt it. There we go. Okay, so alternator's out, and that's the alternator pulley right here. We're gonna take care of this one later. Okay, so now that we got the alternator out, we can see that the belt is nice and loose. So we're just gonna go ahead and get this off. Just trying to be very careful with it. So it's the belt. Just doing a quick thorough inspection of the belt. Belt still looks okay, and the belt looks pretty much good still. So, but I have a new replacement belt that's gonna go in when we put the new pulleys, but I will still hold on to the OEM belt just in case that new one it fails. Of course, if your belt is actually deteriorating and shows signs of crack and everything, go ahead and replace the belt. But for this one, it looks still okay, so we're gonna go ahead and keep it. Next thing we're going to do is going to go ahead and tackle this guy right here. So this is the crankshaft pulley right here. So I know the crankshaft pulley bolt can be seized on, just to try and help break up the joint and help unseize it and hopefully make it easier for us to unbolt. I'm going to go ahead and put some PB Blaster on the bolt itself right here. Just kind of let it sit for a little bit, and then we'll come back and disconnect it or unbolt it. So I have this this tool that I bought off of Amazon that's supposed to hold the crank pulley in place while I'm undoing it. And then I got my impact gun, 19mm socket on max torque settings to hopefully undo this bolt. So let's give it a try. Yay! There we go. Cool. That was easy. Okay. Okay. That's the bolt. Then we just gotta keep in mind there's a pin here. So we just got to get this out slowly. Right. So there's a pin right there, and there's the OEM pulley. So, all right. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is the water pump pulley. To get to this one is a little difficult. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jam this extension into one of the pulley holes here. And I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the bolt. It's a 10mm bolt, so. Okay, that's one bolt. Going to do the next one. Got the water pump pulley, got the crankshaft pulley. Only thing left is alternator pulley. So I don't have a offset wrench or whatever to hold this nut down, because it's there's this nut, which I believe is a 22mm, that's holding this pulley in to this main shaft right here that goes into the alternator, and this is I believe it's a 10mm. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to use basically some block pliers. Try to hold down this nut and then take my impact wrench with a 10mm 6-point socket and just try to loosen this guy. I did put some PV blaster, so tried everything, and yeah, I just can't seem to get this nut to come loose, even with my impact wrench and everything. This main shaft is already starting to round out, so I'm not going to take any chances and risk not having an alternator. I'd have to basically order a new alternator if I wanted to try and change out the pulley. We'll leave it for now, and we'll just go ahead and replace the OEM pulley, crankshaft pulley, and the water pump pulley, which I have right here. So yeah, too bad we can't change this out, but it is what it is, and I don't want to risk anything more, so we'll just go with these two. Alright, so we're back inside. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the OEM pulleys. So this is the OEM water pump pulley, as you can see. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little bit of a groove kind of worn into the pulley itself. This is the OEM one, just from running it over the past couple of years. And so we're going to go ahead and just take a look, compare it to the NST. You can see like these holes are a lot smaller compared to these ones. Overall size, it's actually the same diameter. As far as width, it looks like the NST pulleys are slightly bigger. We can go ahead and measure that real quick. Use my calipers. I can quickly measure. It's about 1 inch thick, give or take. Overall diameter, about 4.7 inches. So we go ahead and compare it to the OEM one right here. Let's measure the OOD right now. It's about the same in terms of the outside diameter, given there is a little bit of a groove here. You can kind of feel it. I'm not sure how thick the groove is, but you can definitely feel it. As far as the thickness goes, yeah, it's definitely a lot smaller. 8.9. Yep. Now in terms of weight, you can actually compare it. Okay, so looks like the napkin does have a little bit of weight, so we'll just be sure to add that in when we correct it or subtract it. So about 0.343 kilograms minus 0.004, which will give us 0.399, right? Remove this, 0.4, 0.5, yeah. So that's how heavy the OEM pulley is. And then we'll go ahead and reweigh the stock one. So significantly lighter, even though this is thicker, but lighter material, so definitely lighter. or the OEM water pump pulley bolt holes still line up with the NST pulley. So that's good to know. Even the inner diameter is still the same, so cool. So let's move on to the crankshaft pulley. Okay, crankshaft pulley. Definitely heavier and bigger. So here is the NST pulley and OEM pulley. So I'm going to set this down, and already just by looking at it, it's a lot bigger. Just put it right here. I mean, you can clearly see just how much bigger it is. So my caliper only goes up to 6 inches max, so I obviously can't measure the OEM ones, but I can measure the NST pulley. About 5.8 inches in diameter. As far as thickness, measure the thickness real quick. 0.8 inches thick. Go ahead and measure the OEM pulley. They're about the same, 0.8. So we go ahead and compare it. Yeah, they're about the same. Almost. But if we take a closer look at the OEM pulley, you can tell there's this rubber. This is the rubber that's part of this crankshaft pulley. That's part of the harmonic damping that a lot of people talk about. I won't go into details. You can do your own research on it. There's a lot of articles and research out there about whether or not this affects it, having an underdrive pulley and all that. So, but I'm just showing it to you guys that there is a rubber piece on the crankshaft pulley, the OEM crankshaft pulley. So that is between this inner hub right here. There's a rubber right here, and then you have the outside metal. So this is rubber right in this groove. You also notice there's the notch right here, which is relative to the pin. Right, so there's the pin, and then there's a notch. And then same thing with the NST. You have the pin hole right here, and then there's actually a notch right up here. So they kind of line up, and they kind of match the locations of where they are relatively. So that's good. Now as far as weight, you can definitely see how much of a weight difference we're going to be saving going to the lighter NST pulley for the scale. So just remember 0.003. So we'll add this on. About 1.380, and then minus 0.003, so that'll give us 1.377 roughly. And if we go to the OEM pulley or NST pulley, significantly lighter, 0.331. It's actually as light as this. The water pump pulley, they actually feel very similar in weight. So too bad we can't remove the alternator pulley. I would like to remove the alternator pulley, but ultimately it is stuck on the alternator. To be quite honest, I'm not too sure if this would actually make a difference because it's so small. And at a later point, if I do need to replace the alternator, I will take the opportunity to install this pulley onto the new alternator. But as of right now, the OEM alternator is still working, so we'll go ahead and leave it as is for now. It just sucks that I won't be able to install this one and get all 3 pulleys, you know, nice looking red pulleys installed on the car. So before we go and install these new lightweight pulleys, I'm going to go and prep the car, clean the areas right where these pulleys are being installed, make sure all the bolts and everything is clean before we go ahead and install these brand new pulleys. But you're gonna have to be subscribed, because that will be part of the second video I'll be releasing when we actually do install these pulleys. So be sure to stay subscribed and watch out for when that video drops. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Shoots!